Hi class, Mrs. McNair here. Today I'm going to teach you how to grow a vegetable garden. Some of the reasons you might want to start your own vegetable garden would be to save money, to have healthy food choices right in your backyard, or maybe you like the creative aspects of gardening. There are 6 basic steps to growing a garden. Number 1, you need to find the garden site, or pick where you would start your garden. Number 2, you have to plan the garden layout. Number 3, you have to prepare the soil. 4, you have to select and sow the seeds. This is the fun part. Step 5, you can't forget about garden maintenance. Step 6, you harvest your crops. Step 1, finding the garden site. We all know that plants need sun to grow. Vegetables need full sun to grow. Step 2, planning your garden layout. You need at least 10 square feet to grow a garden. The bigger the better. You cannot plant seeds right next to each other and expect to have a lush garden. Plants need to be sown at least 6 to 12 inches apart because they do get big. That little tiny tomato plant that starts out as a seedling this big gets this big and this wide. Step 3, preparing the soil. First thing you got to do is pull any weeds or grass that's currently in your yard. If you don't, those roots, even if you don't see the actual green sticking up, the roots are still in the ground and will start a new plant. You will have weeds and grass, I can promise you. But if you take the extra care to make sure all the weeds are out of the grass, out of the dirt, before you plant your seeds, you won't have this problem, or it'll be at least not as bad. You're going to need at least 4 large bags of soil to mix with the dirt. You will need to till that soil with the dirt. You can get soil from any home improvement store that has a garden center, such as Home Depot or Lowe's. Step 4, select and sow your seeds. This is the part that's exciting. We plant a garden because we want to see it grow. Some possible choices would be tomato, pepper, cucumber, green beans, carrots, collard greens, onions. There are so many choices. Don't forget to plant the seeds 3/4 of an inch under the soil. You're going to lightly cover the dirt, cover the seed with the dirt. And after you water it regularly, in about 2 weeks, you're going to see a little seedling pop up, more or less. But either way, also, just as finding the soil, Home Depot, Lowe's, they all have an extensive garden center. They have walls of seeds. And living in South Florida, we're lucky enough to be able to grow just about anything. Step 5, garden maintenance. Now that you've planted the seeds, you've watered, the seedlings are up, the plants are growing, you have to maintain that garden. You have to water your vegetables daily for at least the first couple months. Second, make sure your plants are getting adequate sunlight. Plants need sun to grow. 3, mulch is a really useful ingredient in the garden because the mulch actually holds moisture in the ground and prevents weeds from growing. And of course you have to pull the weeds. This is not the most fun part of gardening, but weeds can overtake other plants and can strangle your actual vegetables. So we want them out of our garden. Step 6, harvest your crop. This is what we're looking forward to when we plant a garden. We're looking for all these vegetables. We want the vegetables. One thing I find truly exciting when I'm in my own garden, when I have planted new vegetables and I'm waiting for the vegetables to grow, and I see these little yellow flowers, I know that those yellow blossoms mean that a fruit is going to grow in the same place where that flower is. So when you see little yellow flowers, you know you're about to have fresh vegetables. Allow your fruit to ripen. This turns into this. And just some other pictures on the board. Same thing. You'll see the little yellow flowers on most of the vegetables. That indicates that the fruit is coming. If you look closely at this picture of the cucumbers, you can actually see the little yellow flowers, and you can see where the cucumbers are growing. You can see the bell peppers here. And remember, you see the little tiny seed is now, these plants all spread and grow. So when you're designing your layout, keep in mind that plants grow. Keep in mind that you need to give them adequate space. Now that you have seen my presentation, you'll know how to plant your own vegetable garden. So eat and enjoy. But before we leave, I'd like to go back over the 6 steps again. Okay, the 6 basic steps are: number 1, to find the garden site. Pick a spot that has a lot of sunlight. Vegetables love sun. Number 2, plan your garden layout. Just as I showed you in the other pictures, vegetables grow big. They spread. You need to sow your seeds, I would say a foot apart. That way when the plant sprouts, they have room. Preparing your soil. Got to get your hands dirty. If you just stick seeds in the ground, it's going to be overtaken. You might not even notice your little seedlings popping up. If you don't take the extra time to get those weeds out, to prepare that soil, you're going to have weeds. The grass that was there, because usually in South Florida, you know, people want to have a vegetable garden, they have to take up maybe grass or weeds that were already there. They're going to come back. So you have to do this the right way. It saves you time in the long run. 4, selecting and sowing your seeds. You get to pick your seeds. That's the most exciting part. Maybe you didn't want to go to Home Depot. Maybe you had tomatoes for dinner. You dried out the seeds, you soaked them a little bit, and you want to use those in your garden. That's fine too. You just need to get your hands on some seeds. And the choices you have are tomatoes. And within tomatoes, there's cherry tomatoes, there's beefsteak, there's all kinds of tomatoes. Bell peppers, green beans, all kinds of vegetables. I personally have successfully grown tomatoes, cucumbers, green beans, sugar snaps, a few other types of vegetables, but my children love to pick the green beans off. Okay, 5, garden maintenance, just as I said about the preparation of your site. You have to prepare the ground so that later on you don't have as much garden maintenance. So, as far as garden maintenance, watering. You have to water your plants. If you don't, in our South Florida heat and our sun, the plants will shrivel. Especially when they're new tender plants. For the first couple months they're not too tough yet. You have to pull the weeds. Take the time to mulch the ground. Okay, and lastly, harvesting your crop. You are going to, once the fruit, as we call it, looks ripe, you're going to take the vegetables off the plant. If you wait too long, obviously they will rot, or the lovely birds and our lovely wildlife will also have them for dinner. So, every couple days, take a basket outside, Pick off tomatoes, pick off the peppers, whatever you're growing. So now that I have shown you all these 6 steps, you can go and start your own garden. And I hope that I have informed you today and you will be successful.